Today we're going to feature Roland. We're hoping to have Ernie, the 2 meetings from now, share with us what's going on the ground in human intelligence and curriculum and instruction, because he's an expert on that. And then we're going to keep rotating in the new partners. We've gotten several new companies to partner with us, and we're in active conversations doing that. I'm flying to Miami this Sunday to view an AI school, so then I'll come back with reports on that. So the alliance is really about the next level up of AI, like what's going to happen. And Roland's going to talk to us about AI as infrastructure. And one of the drivers for that, just so everyone knows, it's been all over social media. There was a kid who committed suicide after interacting with AI. And now I'm personally witnessing a lot of state level governments freaking out. This is going to drive the next level up, which is going to, the reason for that is the security and it's no longer a black box. Like you're just buying commercial licenses on ChatGPT or somewhere else. They're great, but that's not what you're going to do to protect children. So who are we? We're allies. And you can read through this. We're going to give you a link to these slides. But essentially, we're working in the future. We're working into where things are going and why. And actually starting to build out what that's going to look like, the tech standards. I'll show you what's happening with that and all that. So we have 3 main core circles. Those are the committees. We call them core circles because an Omni-AI is called a core. It's not called a system, or we could call it a system or an interface or whatever, but we call it a core. So the number 1 is the AI schooling leadership. Shannon, this one I need help on, and you might want to help with it too. We're never able to get superintendents. Dr. Doug Hendricks is a superintendent very often, right? So it's hit or miss with all those guys. Roland is running the EdTech vision, and he and I are in constant communication for that committee, building out that. We've had many epiphanies just in the last, 5 days, right, Roland? It's moving really fast. And then Ernie's running the balancing AI with human intelligence, which is really that teacher learner curriculum and instruction focus. It's what the feds are on right now. Everybody's got to be AI literate. China just announced, like, by the time you're 4 years old, basically, or is it 5? You gotta be AI literate. So a lot of action in that committee too. And there's going to be a lot of discussion, I hope, about what is human intelligence, getting to the nitty gritty of that, because there's too much going out there about like critical thinking, and that's not very well defined. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to give you the quick catch up in case you're new to the group. And then we're going to have a little housekeeping, and then Roland's going to talk, and then we're all going to talk. So introduce yourselves. We tried to do all introductions last time. We didn't have enough time to do that. All right. So what is Omni-AI? Omni is when you have an infrastructure that basically is using more than one kind of AI. Okay. So right now everybody's, gaga goo goo over generative AI and chatbotting their way to whatever they're doing with teaching and learning. That's like the baby step. So that's start 1. But also Omni means human intelligence. How are we as an education industry, K-12 and higher ed, going to wrap in human intelligence meaningfulness and carve out what's supposed to happen with jobs in the future and all that kind of thing. So that's in the first white paper, which is almost done on leadership. Anne and Shannon, that needs to come to you guys to look at. So when we define what it is, it's a cognitive substrate made up of more than one type of AI functioning as the mind between and across a multiplicity of software systems, platforms, data flows to affect a transformation of schooling. Okay, so this is kind of deep, right? But we're in the age of narrow. We're moving very, very quickly to Omni. The projected timeline, and Cisco, when they first got on one of the first Omni-AI meeting, they got on and talked about the fact that they're seeing it happen sooner than this. This is how fast it's moving. So you're going to see a lot of piloting of Gen AI. There's already a lot of districts doing that. You're going to also see starting to wanting to converge the early mesh layers. So what that means is they want the AI that they're running as maybe a closed small language model or large language model, an instance, to talk to the LMS, to talk to the digital content, to talk to the busing system, the finance system, the HR system, and be able to be queryable and it itself provide agents and offer new insights that you weren't even asking for. That's really what AI is supposed to do. And you can see it's moving really quickly. All right, so if you wanted to have an image of what an Omni-AI core looked like, it's basically an interface that's running all the algorithms and agents that you want, and then pulling through integrations and SSO from all of your systems, mostly looking into those systems. So you might have a local, you're using ChatGPT or whatever, or you've got an instance of your own. And then these are the other things that are going to happen after that, which is a registry, certifications, an exchange, and then hopefully pools, because a lot of schools don't have enough teachers. So you look at the levels that operates on, it's internal to the administration. You could be just using it in your classroom, which is what's happening right now. You could be using it in hybrid programs. You could be using it your whole school operation, like a full Omni core. You could be using it across a whole state or a whole district. And then above that's going to be something we call portable AI user shells with registries, circuit, all the certifications, all that stuff. So those 4 levels, individual users, okay, that's the instruction and curriculum level. That's what everyone's talking about right now. And everybody's been training on since 2023. Then above that is those individual AI infused apps. There's 45, 50 some companies now in this space. And Stephen, tell me if I'm wrong, Stephen Wakefield, you guys are also doing stuff with AI and embedding it in Discovery, right?
That's correct. We are embedding it into our um, uh, various products as we speak.
Yeah, a lot of people that the infusions are coming, and there's people already wanting in the school and district side, they're wanting certifications of that. Like, what's the auditability? What is it doing? There's something called explainability of the AI. Like, why is it making the decision to put this kid into this module now, right? And then there's the cores level, which is that mind at the enterprise level, and then exchanges and trust. We've identified 26 new tech standards that are not covered by any other association. Some of them are partially covered. Then there's the 6 of those 26 are partially covered. But now that you add in the vision of Omni-AI Core, they're missing elements in them. There also needs to be an identity registry for the AI user shells. Those are also co-pilots, wallets, bubbles. The areas of certification that we're looking at doing, this would be for products, this would be for cores. Even LLMs that are sold to the enterprise or private LLMs. The design pattern responsibility, there's not more, I didn't put all the detail on this slide. The router and orchestration layer, the any layered theory of mind, that's because you want to know what the AI is doing as a school. If it's looking at a kid's cognitive load and making decisions and routing things around to teachers, you want to know what it's doing. So there's no bias and those kinds of things. So that people are going to want that certified because it's like social emotional on steroids. And then,
Leilani, could I jump in just for a real quick second?
yeah,
Because this is a springboard for one of the things I've been thinking about and hearing in the field. And it seems to have a relation, just to plant the seed here and not elaborate, but it's around the idea of a transparency registry, right?
yes,
That doesn't
yeah, that's what
exist.
this, yeah.
Okay, super.
Yeah, that language, the word transparency, auditability is in all of these, if I gave you the
Okay,
full
great.
definition.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Integrated closed courseware, that's good, people want to know what's going on inside that. And then the user shall audits. And then the other ones, like if you add in a financial system, there's a whole set of things going on over in financial systems that you have to know about as standards. All right. So the operational outcomes, this is just a small handful of them. There's so many. And there's companies coming out or doing particular pieces of this, like a grading agent, a lot of instructional agents, scheduling agents are out now. Those are the scheduling agents, by the way, are driving a new time issue, right? So right now, most AI LLMs don't operate around time. Roland, you and I were talking about this, but time is definitely going to be something that people are interested in the higher ed space, in the online virtual learning space, because you want to know if somebody's on pace based on, projected norm, if they're ahead, behind, whatever. You also want to know how long it's taking them to get through something, if it has to keep repeating itself, those kinds of things. So
Let me throw something in there, Leilani, about time. So, you guys probably already know about being stateless and being stateful. So stateless means that whatever happens in this one transaction, once it's over, it goes away. Stateful keeps a log of them. But then there's also uh, being time aware, time context, a couple other concepts that are floating around out there just around the whole time issue.
mhm. Yeah, and LLMs don't typically tag time. They don't use time. Yeah. So it's a thing because in school, this is one of the reasons why the education industry has to have a body of standards because they're definitely trying to keep kids on pace against standard academic standards. There's also there's actually 6 models now that are emerging because of AI. The first one is the AI infused model. That's just add-on platforms or what's going on inside really quality crafted courseware and discrete digital object libraries. That's usually some sort of agentic or using some sort of generative, sometimes a small language model, but it's a siloed system. The key benefit is, of course, you can move really quickly. It retains your whole group model, which is the one thing that the Omni-AI Alliance contends needs to shift, and AI will allow to shift. The whole group model is not necessarily the working model, or should even continue to exist. It's 250 years old. It's not proving itself. So the next one is the matrix fractional. That's for schools that are going to be doing partial enrollments in order to gain some seat time because they're losing kids to choice left, right, and center. Co-pilot schooling, still whole group, but uses agentic AI. That's where the AI user shells are probably going to be coming in. PathFlex is the time AI that alters the entire schooling model. And then lounge and satellite schooling to save having to close schools. You retain a portion of the school, maybe rent out the rest for community services, and create a hybrid matrix of teaching, maybe roaming teaching. But you wouldn't have as much live teaching, a lot more AI use in the study. And then the final level is the AI a la carte limitless, which would maybe use all of the above, right? So the
Leilani,
driver,
just
go
a
ahead.
quick question.
Yeah. Want me to go back?
No, wait, sure. Um, one of the big refrains post-COVID, even during COVID, was how much COVID was going to change education.
Right.
There was going to be all sorts of new models. Why do you think it hasn't? To a large extent, some people may say it has, but I would disagree. I would think education largely continues to be what it was pre-COVID. Um, why is this different?
Well, the number one reason why is time AI came out of the pandemic, right? Because of the pandemic, people saw you can't keep a 7-year-old on a virtual call for 6 hours a day. And they knew they had to change structure. So they started to mildly do that and, just join the call for 15 minutes and then do your
Right.
rest of your time working on your own. And then they also started to see that small group was better. The third thing that they're seeing now, finally, is they've got 30 to 40% mixed ability in every classroom. This is where the AI takeover is so strong. If you have, one path you're running and then you've got to customize for 10 other kids, some are ahead, some of them all have special needs, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of work, right? Because these kids are like 4, 5, 6 grades behind. They don't even speak English. Things are going on in the classroom. So if the teacher's not facing down people that are nominally at the same level, that's a driver that's never been as bad as it is now. That driver right there. And you don't have enough teachers. During COVID, you still had enough teachers, or you were starting to run out. But now those two problems are crossing to create serious change. The other thing that's happening is they're all losing. I mean, teachers or schools are losing, our projections are by 2030, if there's no real structural change, 50% of the kids will have left traditional public nationwide. That's
By when?
2030. I mean, I've been talking to superintendents all over the country this whole year that they like going into this new school year, they lost another 2,000, lost another 5,000, lost hundreds, and I'm only 3,000 kids anyway, right?
And
The,
Leilani,
the,
I think just where we are, just in society, having a granddaughter, just the safety is going to accelerate that trajectory
that's the
of
number
people
one.
fleeing, right? Beyond just traditional curriculum versus other curriculum kind of notions. I think that, as you mentioned, safety being the one reason that people are now seriously considering moving their children out of that setting.
Oh yeah, that's number one, and then ideology and that. But I think the
Leilani,
other one is
may
the
I comment?
personalization. Yeah, go ahead.
I have just a real world example of this issue. Driving my son to his first day of eighth grade this year, a couple weeks ago. On the way to school, he asked me, Dad, why do I have to go to school? Why do I have to go to a place when everything I need to learn is home? And he pushed back the first couple days. He really wanted to inspire me to let him be homeschooled at some different level. The kids know. They see that there's other options, and I think that's going to be part of that driving factor for 2030, that number you gave, Leilani.
Yeah, yeah, and the other one is true personalization. When you talk to schools and
Mhm.
districts or anybody in higher ed, the definition of personalization is what's done within the framework of by age, by grade, by course. Okay, and you personalize inside that framework.
By the amount of effort I want to make. Go ahead, Leilani.
Yeah, but yeah, and what's wanted and needed now is true 100% path and pace, right? Like, so I'm in second grade, I'm fifth grade reading, right? I'm in second grade math. I want to have a true human experience. AI is going to, and this is just to come full circle to your question, Stephen. AI is going to allow that complete disaggregation. It's going to allow a mind to operate at that level of personalization, which including the intersection of the live teaching at the right moment. And not for the one, but for the right cohort, like maybe aggregated across great distances together. Like these six need this, right? So that's really what a la carte limitless as a framework is. So the drivers, of course, are everything we just talked about, right? This is the projections by 2030. What's going on with the teacher shortage is also epically large and growing. So if you can't put a human teacher in every room, you're going to have to execute on a different structure. Roland, I'm going to pass you the screen in 2 seconds. This is
Okay.
where we're at right now. We're writing the white papers. Our stats on the recordings of the meetings like we're having right now, we got 7,500 viewers average every time we put one out. So even though everybody doesn't join us live, there's a lot of post viewership, and I can even tell that by how many people are hitting my social media pages. Like people I've never heard of, probably you guys as too, as committee leaders. All right, so our friend Roland Anton from Learning AI Agency, he's going to talk to us about AI as infrastructure. I'm going to stop sharing and let you share, okay?
Okay. All right. Back to the beginning. Okay. All right, guys. My name is Roland Antoine. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for the Learning AI Agency, which was started by Shannon, as a matter of fact. um, Today, we're going to talk about AI's infrastructure for K-12 information architecture. Both those components have to be part of that idea. And my favorite quote here, the reason it's my favorite quote is because of the fact that, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the technology to actually get someone in space or onto the moon most of it did not exist before when the statement was made. When the statement was made, President Kennedy didn't consult the scientists because they had to build a lot of things and just come up with a lot of things out of the blue in order to make this happen, including the math behind it also. All right. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. And the reason why I'm doing this is to get this window out of the way. Okay, you guys are still seeing my presentation, right? Yes? Someone tell me?
Yeah, we're seeing your slides.
Okay, because I moved the other window out of the way. Okay, so these are just a couple of things that already exist. Yeah, why am I showing you a chat window? Well, this chat window is actually someone talking to their data through Slack. So a tool built by Data Slush actually a couple of years ago was able to allow a user to actually query their data in natural language and get a response. We're going to look at some more interested a little bit down the road here. Another example is this is also a data slush tool where a teacher or principal or whatever will be able to look at a data point, click on it, and then it would give recommendations like what students are in that group that they're looking at and recommendations for them to how they're going to interact with them. I don't know if I have time to do this. So yeah, I should because you guys kind of need to see it happen. And if it doesn't come up, then I'm just going to count on you to go click the link yourself and see what's going on there. All right. So it's taking a little bit too long, so I'm not going to spend all day trying to get that. But basically, what's at that link is a short video of a student interacting with an AI agent, not a bot. The AI agent is that.
Can you clarify what the difference is?
So the first of all, in this particular example, it is an AI-driven experience. So the AI is interacting with the student as an instructor. So it is actually asking the questions, telling them what to remember, all of these things. If you've ever interacted with a bot over anything, it basically is responsive. Okay, it's just going to respond to you with kind of a scripted, actually with a definitely scripted response pattern, right? If the answers aren't already there within what it's told to do, then it's not going to respond to you properly. And you probably run into that like on the phone dealing with someone who's using a automated system for their responses. In this system, the AI is driving the experience. It's questioning students, the student trying to drive the student to remember a particular concept. Also, the interaction is completely spoken. The student is speaking to the agent, and the agent is speaking back to the student. So I probably could have had the link come up in the time that I was using to explain that. If we have some time, when we get to the end, if you guys want me to go back and actually bring up the video, I'd be glad to do it. All right. So these are actual AI edtech platforms, not just generative overlays. So they're kind of been two species of edtech AI to date. One species has been where a company has taken a generative interface and put their own, I guess, overlay or skin on it and made it to where but also maybe added some pre-formatted queries so that the users didn't have to really think of their own queries to get a certain result. And then there have been another family of these advances, which are a little less known because they were developed in conjunction with a specific education entity for a specific purpose. So AO was developed with Mosquito ISD and Google, which it's kind of hard to explain, but AO learns about the student individually and is able to advise the teacher on what might the student be more interested in or what directions they might want to take the student. So it's really about giving the teacher more information about the student than what they might get from a class, from being in a classroom with them every day, so that they can actually start to see the students as individuals and also act on that information. Julian is actually a tutoring teaching platform between Walden University and Google that allows students to create, I guess you could call it, create study tools based on their strengths and their weaknesses, also their interactions. The number sense and LXP, that's big thought and nomadics. That was the demo demo video I skipped over really quickly because I didn't want to spend the time. We can go back to that at the end, as I said. Scaffolded is an intelligent data system that proactively seeks what they call, it's not my word, street data. Okay, so Scaffolded, they do projects where they help school districts manage their data, transform it into Ed5 standard, those types of things. But they have other tools that are able to, like, for example, specifically attendance. Teacher retention is another area that they work on specifically. And the reason they do this is because these are areas of accountability and areas where schools have the most concern. With attendance, Scaffold Ed has a tool that actually will reach out to the parent and the student with a survey, other means of contact, and eventually try to figure out why attendance is the way it is. To give you kind of an idea of how of something that it solved, it turns out a student in a particular school district was having a problem with attendance. It turned out that the reason for the problem with attendance was that the student and the parent were having to share a bus pass, so that on days the parent had to go to work, the student wasn't able to get to school. That's not something that shows up in any data, in any SIS, in any attendance platform anywhere. That's what my friend Evan calls street data. Also, that level of the Scaffold application suite uses, we'll get to that in information theory, but it uses information, and I'll explain what that means a little bit later. Archie is another academic application by ASU that actually won an award by ASU Prep and Data Slush. And EDIA, it was a math tutoring application that I actually ran into these guys during the pandemic. They had a deal that if EDIA did not improve their student scores, the district didn't have to pay them for the application. They've never had to pay it back to a district. So I'm going to move on here to, you can read that comment at the bottom. I always put those there for a reason, but yeah. Part of my background is I come from both the education side of the house and the IT side of the house. I started as a special education teacher. I ended, well, actually 3 positions: Deputy Chief Technology Officer, Director of Learning Technology Services for the state of Texas. And then I went back to Dallas ISD to become their Assistant Superintendent of Enterprise Applications. So I've kind of seen all the different angles of this question, right? IT infrastructure is a collective, we all know what that is, collective set of hardware, software, networking, and facilities that support an organization's information technology environment and services. Information architecture is the practice of arranging and structuring content in a way that it makes it easy for users to find and understand. Normally, these two concepts should like go right together, as I said, like peas and carrots from Forrest Gump. But the pandemic revealed our utter failure here. During the pandemic, I used to sit in a meeting on Friday afternoons with some folks from Ed5. It's called Ed5 Fridays, and basically we just all were in this meeting trying to help each other solve problems that it was just going nuts. Remember one meeting where we had a registrar that was in tears because she could not do her job. She could not figure out how to determine if students were present or absent. And in Texas, in the state of Texas, we had the exact same problem. We had to create rules to kind of ease the situation because we had registrars going through the same thing. Kids were going into the LMS or going into Google Classroom, but that information did not show up in the systems that they had access to. So even though the kids were doing stuff, being able to tell if they were present or absent in doing stuff, or even like in Zoom meetings, there was no attachment that allowed Zoom presence to actually, be exported or be extracted from Zoom into the student information system. That didn't exist. So this is where I'm saying that the pandemic revealed our utter failure here. And if you think about what is the reason we have all these systems is information. That information may result in things that are done, but the systems themselves are all about information, about piece of information that we can act on, all right? Don't lose sight of that, because that's also a big driver behind Omni-AI. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about information theory, okay, and why artificial intelligence may be the only way to solve this problem. So, data is zero dimension information, meaning that you have some representation of something in a cell, in a spreadsheet, in a database, whatever, but it's zero dimension. It has no meaning at all attached to it. Then information, to get the information stage, you have to add all of that meaning back into it. Part of the reason we have data in EdTech is because that's all our systems could do at one time. Systems could not process words or statements in a way that they could be analyzed, possibly, or cataloged and analyzed and then put together into something that meant something on a large scale, on a, not large scale, but meant something that we could act on, that was actionable. Now we have the capability because large language models speak language. They don't necessarily have to have formatted data. But I'm going to move through here. So information to knowledge, applying information through experience and learning leads to knowledge. So in order for information to turn to knowledge, you have to have time or have time awareness. And the reason for that is you understand how something develops throughout time. That turns it into knowledge. Now, insight and wisdom are two things that probably will never happen with computing systems. I'm sure somebody's going to get to a point where they think it can do that, but you have to actually be able to interface with the real world in order for those two to happen. All right, and we can kick that ball around too later if you want. Now, basics, types of human-facing AI. I'm just going to talk about generative AI and agentic AI. What I want you to notice here, though, so I asked Gemini, which is, or actually the generative, front end of Gemini, a question about converting EdFi data. Okay, so generative AI, you guys should know, it's in the title. They generate content. If you want to know how they are based, they generate content. If you ask generative AI interface, ask Claude, ChatGPT, not the agent version, Gemini, Meta AI, which I would probably recommend you don't. Any of them. As a matter of fact, I think there are like 3 or 4 others I have in my links that I can't remember right now, but they're minor small experiments. They will generate content. That is what they are designed to do, to create content. Gemini's response to me when I asked it about converting EdFi data, it said, well, I cannot directly connect and retrieve data from an EdFi operational data store. I can read, process, and understand data that is presented in EdFi format. So basically, if I could give it the data, right? If I could give it the data that I want it to convert, it might be able to do something with it, but it would have to wait for me to give it to it. So agentic AI pursues outcomes, gets a job done from end to end, wherever you want it to start, wherever you want it to stop. I asked a similar question to something called, it's a new front end I just discovered last week called Incredible. First of all, I thought it was really cool that it actually showed its thinking. And this is where it shows the user what it needs. So its thinking is, I want to find out where the data is, get access, and then I'll be able to handle the rest of this job. And so it asks me questions like this: what specific EdFi data do you want to read? Where is the data located? So it can plug into wherever it's located. If I gave it permission to go there, what do you want to do with the data? And do you want it to actually create, it to integrate with it and possibly create, that's up here, create app integrations if there are some that could be made. its response is all about activity that it can engage in past the question, which I was not expecting that. But that's basically I was supposed to ask you guys what's different, but you're supposed to notice that. But I'm sure everybody sees that.
Well, I think what's different here, and then I'm already imagining what's gonna happen with standards now, Roland, right?
Hmm.
Is that if, let's say you're running it at the admin level and through an SSO, you can give your admin keys. You're not gonna give a root like out to whatever software is in play, system, courseware, whatever. But you could give admin access.
Hmm.
If the agent can now read through the admin all the data, turn pages, whatever it's gonna do online, it's gonna pull everything right through the browser, right?
Well, I mean, if it's located at a URL, either it could be either a URL or an IP address. Doesn't matter to this particular app, whether it's a
Yeah.
URL. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
so what's gonna happen is that there's gonna need to be a rewrite of admin access capacities in every hooked system. Right?
Well, that and tools that will um, allow you to set the level of trust. Let me put it like that.
Yeah.
Now what it did, so I had to actually do a task. I could give it access to. I asked it to go and find all the emails from a particular sender in my email and delete them. It asked at the time that it started to access my email, it asked for permission. It wouldn't go any further until I actually granted permission for it to do that. And so I granted permission, it went in and did it, and you know, easy.
Is it, was
Go
it
ahead.
an open script consent or was it just a consent button or could you script it? Like,
It was.
yes, everything before X date or nothing that has this word in it. Could you script it?
I didn't actually give it specific parameters except for one particular a sender.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure you could specify a date range. I mean, a date range or a particular subject also.
Yeah.
And basically the consent was a button. So this incredible IO, I forget what the address is, but you can tell it's actually oriented towards users that don't know technical language. So you just
Does it have a reverse sandbox?
no.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. I didn't play around with it that much to find out. That's why I gave it something that I knew I didn't want to reverse. But it is that is a good question because if you it would you would have to have an undo level.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that
and you also should be able to sandbox it so you could see it in a sandbox before after.
yeah, demo. But understand this is just a mass market tool that's sitting out on the internet. If
Yeah.
if anything that we would put together or design as the Omni-AI group would have those things in there just from the standpoint of auditability. Because
Yeah.
people would want to know how, if something did get deleted that was important because of someone not giving a specific range or whatever in the prompt, um, then you want to have an undo button or
Right.
have a way to find out, who accessed and instructed the AI to perform this task and what were the steps the AI went through to perform this task. That's one of the reasons why having an enterprise system is kind of critical because
Yeah, it's critical. Not only it's a legality, and then we should move really quickly so we have like at least 10, 15
yeah.
minutes.
Now let me get
Because I think legally under state laws, every entity that's touching consumer level data it's a 500-year retention, right? Like if you
um,
have,
not 500 year. The longest I've seen well, I take it back. The only thing that is forever is student records. And when I say student records, records of you passed this grade, you graduated at this time, those type of
okay,
records.
okay,
But there are retention requirements a lot of them, especially around financial systems.
That's why the AI user shells are gonna also be really important.
Yeah.
Okay, so you should move quickly through the rest of it so
Okay.
people can ask you questions. Yeah.
All right. So these are some of the ways AI talks to things and other AI, especially agents talk together in an agentic system. What's really interesting is that MCP has all of a sudden gotten really, really, really interesting. Leilani, your registry that you were talking about, well, welcome to it. There is a company that makes something called MCP Registry. I just found out about this morning, so I don't know got a lot of details about it, but MCP will probably be the main way that we transition into AI environments because school districts have so many non-AI systems that use standard databases or this kind of database or that kind of database. So,
Right.
and then there's AP2, which just happened, I guess, last week. That's agent payment protocol. The reason why I put that in there is because it just happened last week. So there you go.
Okay.
So graphic roadmap from what we have now, stuff sitting in individual clouds with individual reach to the AI's infrastructure where you actually have agents handling the uh, transactions of information autonomously. And that way, you don't have to have a person sitting around just waiting to press a button to, I don't know, transfer all the paychecks to the bank so that the bank can then now put it into people's deposit accounts, which is something that we had at Dallas. A person had to wait for everything to finish, press a button, and then paychecks to go where they needed to, no matter what time that, how late that was. And then these are just slides of interest, right? Like 95% of generative AI business projects fail to meet expectations or failed. Completely, that was from last year. There's an MIT paper about it. Okay. And that one's funny. Use of generative AI for another MIT paper for academic work reduces cognitive activity. The funny thing about that is that it's supposed to. That's the reason you engage with generative AI, so you don't have to use your own brain. But just some things of interest there. And other learning documents will be posted at our group site in No Story. There's already a few videos in there. If you want to know how LLMs work, or how agentic AI works, or how generative AI works, there are a few short. IBM is great at making these really short instructional videos. I love that they're less than 10 minutes. So I've been linking those things at that page. All right. Okay.
All right. So who has questions and comments and things you want to rant about?
I have tons of questions, but I'm going to hold my questions because I can talk to Roland anytime. So
Well, there's a few people on here too that we haven't met yet, like Charles Franklin and Suzanne Carlson and Swayam Aurora. If you guys want to pipe up, please do. Okay, they're not piper uppers.
Also, I
Okay,
need to
so-
add a disclaimer.
Oh, there's Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne.
Hello. Very interesting and informative information. I'm with a company I'm a nonprofit, and we do professional development in the K-8 realm. And
Okay.
we are finding a lot of our districts that we work with. We're in over 29 states currently, and we impact over 1 million students. This is exactly what they're talking about. They're worried about it. They're scared about it. They want to embrace it. They're not really sure how to go about doing that. So this information, and this is why I joined this group, I'm getting a lot of information that I'm going to be able to take back to our professional development people. So
Good. Yeah, you're gonna have a never-ending job from here on out. Hi, Charles. Do you have a question or comment? Hi.
No question. I did introduce myself last week, but I just wanted to say hello and great information, Roland. I appreciate it. And thanks for connecting on LinkedIn. Super good
Yeah,
information.
good.
One thing, let me throw this in here because I did not put it in the presentation. I know a lot of districts are concerned about students and plagiarism. So link, and I actually wrote a little article about it, but uh, uh, what's that application? Turn it into the
Yeah,
study. Turn it into the study and found that only 3% of the writing documents that ran through Turnitin in 2023, I believe, because that's when they came up. They actually had something that could detect AI writing. Only 3% were documents that were completely copied from AI. There was about 10% of documents that had some statements in them that may have been copied from IA, may have been part of research or whatever. Um, so I would say
wow.
that when you talk to your teachers or your district officials about that, 3% is less than what standard significance is.
Hmm.
Like practically nothing. The standard significance is 5%. Um, 10%, yeah, that's a little bit, and that may also come from corrections too. So it's not the runaway house fire or forest fire that everybody thought it was going to be, where all of a sudden students were doing nothing but copying their essays and papers from
Right,
ChatGPT.
right. And I understood from the two young men that joined us on one of the Omni calls. I was with them when EdFi was interviewing them about, policy level stuff that EdFi is doing with the feds. And they both said that, and this is I observe as a journalist, you can ask ChatGPT or one of the others for, like, write me this. And it won't remember after you ask for the next iteration of what it left out or what you want to change. It won't remember everything that it already told you. So this is actually driving critical thinking, right? Because you got to go, wait, I wanted to make sure that my paper said this, but it was in the first version, but now it's missing in the second version, and there's different emphasis in a different area. So it's forcing you to toggle, and sometimes 3 or 4 iterations down, start over entirely and write a better script, which is an interesting outcome, right? So there's also that. Um, Shannon had a question about MCP in the notes. Shannon?
I also have, that was a question that's secondary to the one I'm most interested in hearing about. But I do want to clarify what is meant by MCP, just because I think visibility into the
Uh-oh.
AI tools being run are critical. The other question that I'll just piggyback off of that is, um, I keep seeing trending and trying to understand, and not wanting an explanation today, but necessarily, but a data cortex, the concept of a data cortex as it relates to the work that Omni-AI Alliance is leading. It seems to have some parallel tenets, and I'm just trying to figure out where the data cortex concept fits with the Omni-AI Alliance. So those two things, is MCP equivalent to a dashboard, and how does the data cortex relate to Omni-AI Alliance, if at all?
Actually, MCP it's called Model Context Protocol. It is a client server um, um, protocol created by Anthropic. Those are the guys that gave us Claude. And
Oh,
it basically is a communications protocol better suited for an AI system speaking or interacting with a non-AI system.
okay.
So MCP would probably be something that would be really useful for interfacing um, an AI system with, say, a student information system. Also, the cool thing about MCP is that it can be very economical when it comes to data requests. There's this myth of whenever you're interfacing some two things together, you need all the data to transfer. That's wrong. You get these specific MCP could handle a extraction that is very specific, wanting only certain elements. So And it does a lot of other things also. Like I said, told Leilani, there's something now called MCP Registry. People are building all sorts of little tools with it. So, but it's not a dashboard. I would probably say that if you're actually in the Omni AI universe, dashboards might become useless.
Gotcha.
And then data cortex versus Omni AI, because you talked about data lakes additional to the core. So you want to differentiate, Roland, what LLM, SLM, right? Core versus what she was asking about cortex.
An LLM versus a small language model versus other types of language models.
Well, Omni AI is essentially an LLM or SLM, and then you're adding other algorithms in that are going to allow you to do multiple types of AI, right? Not just on language. You might be able to do time AI and agentic over all the top of that. But a data cortex, is that the same thing as a data lake?
No,
The vector database?
no. So the versatility, if we're talking about, and this is where you would have an agentic system, or there's another thing that you can use for this, but or even agentic system or just an agent, right? Is that agent or agentic system can once it actually perceives the problem or question, right? It'll part of its actions may dictate push it towards a data lake that you may have, a vector database that you may have, which is actually, I don't want to go on that explanation now, but a vector database is a different type of database where the query is more of an looks for more association than actually specific things that were described by a query. An LLM, which is a model that has been trained, based on language, with all of the content it can actually get its hand on. SLM is where you have a specific type of LLM, like you might have an instructional math LLM that knows everything there is about teaching math from K to 8. That's all it knows. Doesn't know any of the other stuff. Can't ask any of the questions. It just knows this one thing. That might be the beginning of what I joke with Leilani about with the AI becoming content, right? Because not only does it know the content, but it knows how to teach it to the student. And then the reason why I have XLM in that little blank in my presentation, there are different types of LLMs, a whole flurry of different types of LLMs that are being developed every day. So as of today, I have that link to a list of XLMs that because there's one like an LLM works by predicting the next word and then starts to create associations based on that next word. There's one called a large context model, which looks at sentences because it's looking for context. And that's how it works. It doesn't work on the word by word basis. It works on sentence by sentence. Then
Okay, we're
there's
gonna have to wrap this up, Roland. We got just 2 minutes. Hi, Chalks.
Hey, sorry that
yeah.
I joined late.
Yeah. Well, Roland, obviously, we need 3 hours more for Roland. We could all absorb all of this. I want to leave everyone with the idea that it's up to you as a member to get more members and pass it on. Help this group grow. Every single meeting is going to be a different featured speaker from here on out. And then we'll probably have to have committee meetings just be closed, like small group as we get started, because we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to start the standards work. We got to start this whole thing about proof of concept, and we're going to approach a bunch of companies who want to be in the first pile for an Omni AI core. And we got to raise money. We got to do things. So there's a lot of things going on. So anybody want to make a final comment? We got 1 minute.
This was great.
Yeah, no, I think I just wanted to say that we are about to embark on this new platform called SchoolAnswers.ai. So think of common questions that the parents have that every school deals with. We're about to launch that can be easily plugged into the websites. It takes the existing data, makes it very easy. So hopefully in the next meeting, Lailani, I'll be happy to share with the team and get your thoughts and inputs as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the next meeting is, I think Kiddom's gonna do the share out and then beyond K-12. And then we put you on the list. I know instruction's gonna share out. We're gonna rack up tons of meetings. We're also going to start listing every company in the groups, just so you know. We haven't sent out the instructions on that. We're behind the times on that. So we gotta do that. So then you can post every piece of news from your subgroup entity to the whole group. Yeah, so stay tuned for that, everyone. Hey, thanks for being with me. And I gotta follow up with you. Shannon, I gotta follow up with you. Anybody who's on here, you got the links, you can get the decks, and don't be strangers. Thank you for being with me today, and Roland and Ernie. Okay. All right.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Travis.
Leland. Bye.
Okay, bye.